Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. This is your full Easter egg guide for Citadelle Des Morts. This is a solo guide. However, you can do this co-op or with any amount of people. The steps are going to be absolutely the same, but in case you're looking for a solo-specific guide where I'm going to go in-depth on how each and every step works so you can do them and learn them by yourself, then this is going to be the video for you. Now, this is one of the harder and more involved Easter eggs in Bo6 Zombies, so doing this solo is no easy feat, but I really put in a lot of work to make sure that this is as easy to comprehend and understand for solo players or anybody as possible. All I ask in return is that this helps you at all, just leave a like on the video and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you do feel so inclined. I'll have plenty more guides like this, and for any Easter eggs and stuff like that, I have you guys covered here. Thank you guys so much for almost 600k. That is wild. But here, as far as loadout goes, this is what I'm going to recommend. A lot of this is actually going to be in your gumballs. If you have them, I'm going to recommend a hidden power and a perkaholic. Those are easily the most two important. You can run whatever else for your remaining slots, but I am also going to recommend either the ASG shotgun as your primary or the Tonto SMG is pretty good here too, and I'll explain why later on. But you can run pretty much whatever gun you want. The choice of that isn't super important here, but I would go with the ASG or maybe the Tonto, something like that. Okay, but let's start the beginning of the game, and the Citadelle Des Morts Easter egg is very interesting because you can do a variety of tasks in any order you want. So in this guide, I'm going to show you a really easy route to get everything done. The first couple of rounds, you don't need to do anything super special. You're going to spend, I would say, the first 3 to 4, maybe even 5 rounds just getting points. Hang out here in the spawn room, use your gobble gum, upgrade your guns, whatever you can do. Just kind of hang out here until we gather some points. Once you've got enough, we're going to head our way up towards the castle, and we're going to buy a couple doors here. We're going to swing over to the right, and the thing we need to do is, in order to access the castle, which is otherwise inaccessible, we need to blow open the front door. So to do that, we need to follow this marker of all the way up to the top of the cannon, and then we're going to rotate this crank. This takes a little while, so make sure you do this at the end of a round. It's a lot easier. And then once that's all the way done, you can go to the back, hold square, fire the cannon, and that big fireball will give us access to the main doorway of the castle. And that's great. But before we go in there, you can actually get one piece already to the Easter egg. So we're going to go over here towards the elemental pop machine, and we're going to drop down to the other side of the village, and we're going to buy this door. Once we head into the barn, we can turn around immediately, and atop the doorway here is going to be a horseshoe that we can shoot down and pick up. This is Otto's horseshoe, and this is going to be useful and mandatory for later on. But we're going to go into the castle and then finally follow the arrows and make our way down, and we're going to get closer and closer to the room that it's guiding us towards. Once we open up this one, we should be greeted with this big, like, giant iron box. There's going to be 3 locks on it, and you can shoot these with your gun to break all of them off, and then there will be an enemy inside that you can kill. Once you kill him, pick up this little item that he drops, this crystal, and then put it in the portal that's inside the container, and then the pack-a-punch machine will appear right in front of you, and that's how to pack-a-punch in this map. You already have access to it, which is great. All right, after that's done, we're going to leave the pack-a-punch machine and head back towards Quick Revive. Just behind this machine is going to be this wooden door that we can interact with, and the top should flip open, and Dr. Kraft will be inside, and he's going to give you a bunch of dialogue. Now, if it's your first time playing, I recommend listening to it, as he's going to give you some actual useful information, and at least wait here until he starts, like, blowing Ethereum pack. I mean, it's pretty obvious you're going to know when it's happening. Just wait for that whole sequence to finish, and then once you've gotten all the information you need from him, we can move on to getting the rest of our ritual items. So we're going to head back towards the courtyard, and then this illusory wall should drop down and open, giving you access to this area. Now, before you open any doors at all, I recommend grabbing 4 slips of paper in here. They're going to be around the stamina up room, and they look like this. They're a sheet of paper with a red eyeball on it. There's going to be 4 of them in total, and they can only spawn in or around this room. They can be a little bit tricky to see, but you're just going to be looking for these glowing red eyeballs. They're not too hard to find. They can be sort of on the outer edge of the wall. They can be sort of near the ground by the crates. There's a bunch of different locations, but they're all in and around this vicinity. So if you can't find one, just keep looking because they're all somewhat around this area. They can't be outside this room or anything like that. So once you've got all 4 pieces of paper, we're going to head back towards the cannon, and the horseshoe that we picked up earlier will be coming back into play. So we're going to come over here and then put ourselves in the cannon. This is actually going to launch us in the air all the way back to the spawn town, and it's going to electrify us at the same time. Now, right when you do that, immediately you're going to look up, and either on the left or right side is going to be this kind of storm cloud. Just follow it wherever it goes, and you can see the Pegasus horseshoe is going to be on the ground. Just go ahead and pick it up, and then also eliminate all of the zombies that spawn in around it. And then while you're here at spawn, you can also come over here, this gold circle should appear on the ground, and then it's going to become a soul box right away. And after getting about, I don't know, 20 or so zombie kills, that should fully fill up, and instead of becoming just a ritual item, you're going to get a reward out of this, but that's not going to be useful until later. But assuming you've done this correctly, that item should go away, and then this sort of like treasure chest should spawn, but don't worry about that for now. We can leave that. Next up, what I'm going to recommend you do is come back over to the area where all of the knights are standing kind of in this courtyard, and we're going to shoot this top red crystal that is kind of shining this red beam, and we're going to reflect it into a variety of other crystals around the map, as you can see. Now, the most efficient way I've really seen to do this is line yourself up with the dimmer beam to and then shoot it, and it should go to the next target that it's supposed to. This might be a little bit tricky for you, but ultimately your goal is to bring the final beam over to the statue inside of this alchemy lab, and it should look like this when you're all done. If you shouldn't have too much trouble with this. Once it's reflecting into this sort of statue, this stone bust, this brute should come out of it. You can pick that up, and that's your second item. Now, immediately you can walk 10 feet outside over to where this lion graffiti is, and then do exactly what we did with the horseshoe, put it inside this ritual circle, and then it will become a soul box once again. Same deal, run it back another 20 kills or so, and the exact same thing is going to happen. It should despawn, and it will give you, instead of that item, a treasure chest instead. Now, once again, we don't need to do any actions with this treasure chest right now, but just remember where it is. It will be useful later on. Right after that, we can go back downstairs, past craft and past quick revive, into the pack-a-punch room, and just behind the machine should be this kind of water slide, and you're going to slide all the way back to spawn. But the thing you need to do here, right at the end of the slide, you can watch as I do it, there's a raven on the right side that you want to shoot with your weapon. This will cause him to leave the sewer, and then as he's flying into the sky, you want to be able to shoot him down. If you've done that successfully, you'll see this purple orb flash out and start to slowly crash back down to earth, and this is the Raven's Talon item that we need. And once you pick that up, you can immediately, if you want, take it downstairs into this kind of like aqueduct undercroft area. I don't really know what you want to call this. It's actually the undercroft, I guess, but this actually should spawn another yellow ritual circle, and just what we've done with everything else, you guys know the drill at this point. Soul box, about 20 kills. Once that's completed, yes, another treasure chest is going to spawn. If you've made it this far, good, because this is some of the hardest stuff out of the way. So the fourth and final ritual piece we need to get, you need to head over to this crafting table, and we're going to craft ourselves 3 Molotovs. I don't know if thermal grenades work, but I'm just going to go with Molotovs just to be safe. But you're going to head over to this area in the upper village, and just above Speed Cola is your first like wood pyre. You just need to, toss a Molotov up there. It should light up. It will spawn these orbs, and zombies will come out of it. They will chase you sometimes, they won't. It's really inconsistent. The second pyre is going to be literally just above the castle like front gate, and then you can light that one up too. And then the third and final one is just above the elemental pop machine. This is probably the easiest one to get, and then you can light up that third and final one. Zombies pretty much always spawn here, but what you're really going to be looking for is the final spawn where an actual boss, one of the doppelgas, will spawn in, because this one is actually carrying Raw's Ankh, so you need to kill this as quickly as possible, and then eventually it should spawn right when that one blows up. You need to be careful because these do damage you when you explode, so just wait till it blows up, and then you can pick up the Ankh, and you're literally right next to where the gold circle is. So if you're over here in the courtyard, just over here on the right side, you can place this in, and exact same deal as before. I don't gotta explain it to you this time. It's just 20 or so kills, and then it will become a treasure chest, and then that's all 4 of the ritual pieces done. So if you manage to do all of this before round 10, great. At this point, past round 10, you're going to be looking for these zombies with armor, and they're going to drop this item called a stamp. You're going to want to look out for these. These allow you to access the normal base bastard swords. The first one we're going to start with is the Raven over here. This is the particular knight you need to interact with, and after we've picked up this sword, you can come over to the alchemy room like right behind it, and on this bookshelf is going to be the bones of an animal, and they can be different every single game, but what you need to do is take this set of bones into the basement where we built our Molotovs, and we're going to put it into this codex. You're going to insert the sword down here, and depending on what your bone is in the middle, it is going to correlate to the element and astrology sign that need to be correlated at the bottom. Now I'm going to put up every possible combination on screen. You just need to match whatever model of bones yours is to the symbols that match up here at the bottom. But once you input that on your codex correctly, assuming you've done this right, you should get this confirmation noise, and then the codex is going to turn purple, and you're going to see these weird orbs start to spawn out of it, and then there's going to be this little tear in the bottom of the ground where you can see just the void, and these orbs are going to come out and try to attack attack you. They will deal damage to you, but you essentially just need to get in between the orbs and yourself, and then they will inevitably fall into the void. And this is going to go on for a couple of times, about 3 rounds of this. You just need to guide as many orbs into these rifts as possible until it comes back to where it originally started. And once you've done that, interact with the sword again. It's going to go and dunk itself into the void once more. And after that's completed and you've done this entire process, you'll be given the upgraded sword, the Shadow Sword Balmung. And then we can take this back to the original night where we picked it up from. So after we returned the Shadow Sword, we're actually going to go directly across from that night and pick up the Light Sword Soleil. And this is how to upgrade this one. This is maybe the easiest upgrade in the game, but I recommend you do it on a lower round. So once you pick this one up, you're going to notice that there's these parasites that spawn in with this golden orb. And as soon as you kill one with your sword, that golden energy is going to transfer to your sword, and we're going to take ourselves over to the upper village where there is a secret door. And we need to melee this door with our golden sword 4 times. Every time you hit it once, it's going to transfer that energy and become a rune on the door. And you need to repeat this 4 separate times. So 4 parasites, 4 runes, and then that will give you access to be able to open the secret door. This is honestly pretty easy as long as you're being efficient. You should have 4 parasites pretty much right off the bat. You can then interact with the door once all 4 runes are applied on there, put your sword into the podium, and then you're going to see on the bottom here is going to be a symbol, and then these other ones are going to fly around the room, and you just need to shoot the symbols in the corresponding order that the podium tells you. This is pretty easy to do, although you do have to consider you have a time limit, and if you do happen to fail this within the time limit, it's pretty easy. You can just go right and interact with the door again. You don't need to kill parasites or anything like that, so it's pretty easy to repeat if you fail, but it shouldn't be too hard to hit these in order. And then that's it. You have the upgraded Light Sword Soleil, probably one of the easiest ones in the game, and this one's very simple and straightforward. Okay, so once you're done with that, we're going to give back the Light Sword to that knight, and then if you have another stamp, you can go right next to him and pick up the Flame Sword or the Fire Sword. This one's pretty easy, but it's a little risky. You need to take this one up to the top where the courtyard is and put it in this dragon podium. And then we're going to run to these 3 different fire cauldrons, and I'll show you exactly where all of them are. The first one is just outside of the spawn room, like right to the left, and you can pick up this dragon fire, and this is going to make you run incredibly fast, like super quick. Now, I do advise you don't do this sword unless you have Juggernog and Stamina up. I don't think you can actually do these without those perks, or if you can, like, it's too risky. You can probably barely get it done, but you're just going to run that dragon fire into the podium where you placed the sword originally. The second cauldron is inside the spawn room itself, and this is probably the longest route there is, although it's not too bad. Like I said, if you have all perks and stuff, you can make it. It just feels a little more risky than it is. It's also pretty hard to get hit by zombies because you're just on fire and they seem to blow up around you, so that's pretty cool. It's rather difficult to get hit, but it's not impossible. And then the third and final one is the closest. It's just on top of the castle, right where the village ramparts are, and then you can grab this, drop down, and then once you get the final flame over here to the dragon, insert that last dragon fire, and then the stone dragon will come alive and ignite the sword itself, and there you go. The upgraded fire sword is complete. How hard is that, Noah J? Like, it's not too hard to make this, but once we have that one completed, we're going to drop this one off at the knight as well, and then we have one more remaining sword. This one's probably the most involved. Once you've gotten a stamp and can pick up the 4th and final bastard sword, we need to come over to the Deadshot machine and pick up one of these lightning rods that's just laying to the left of it. The second lightning rod is actually very close and nearby. You can come to this machine and put dead wire on your weapon, and then we head back over to the village, and you can see that it's actually located on top of this antenna, and to knock it off, we want to shoot this power box that will cause it to spark and then knock the second lightning rod to the ground. And in order to obtain the third and final lightning rod, we come back to the Undercroft. While you're here, if you have melee macchiato, please melee this slightly broken wall to reveal this puzzle. We don't need to do anything with it yet, but it'll be important later. Eventually, an armored zombie that's carrying the lightning rod should spawn down here. It might take you a round or two, but eventually, you know, he'll come through and drop it. And once you've picked up all 3 lightning rods, we come back over to the elemental pop machine, and we can put all of the rods into this, like, this storm conductor. It's going to start spinning around and generate a lightning storm above you, and this one can be a little tricky. What you need to do is get zombie kills using the regular bastard sword until you see it begin to spark. Like, lightning will be on top of it, and then once the sword itself is sparking, you can go and smack the conductor. You need to do this 3 times, obviously, because there are 3 lightning rods. It might take you a little bit, but you're going to get infinite zombie spawns during this process. Once you've gotten all 3 lit up, you can place your sword inside the conductor, and then eventually it will just automatically upgrade it to its final form. And so once you've done all 4 of these upgraded swords. If you've made it to this point, you've actually completed a fair majority of this quest, but we have a couple somewhat tough steps to get through before we can get to the very end and also do the boss fight. All right, so for this next step, this is where the puzzle where we sort of broke it behind the wall comes back into play. Inside of the tavern here are going to be these weird cauldrons, these cups that are sitting around. There should be 6 of them in total. They're all inside this bar, so you don't have to look too far to get them, but they're all laying around, and they will be blank when you first see them, but if you hold square or X to interact with them, a little symbol should appear. Now, I recommend taking pictures of these on your phone or writing them down, and in case you don't know Roman numerals, I'll put them up on screen to signify what they are, but you're just going to match the symbol to whatever the number sequence is according to these cups, and then we're going to take them over to the puzzle and then simply input them 1 through 6 on this. Now, it's very easy. However, the only tricky thing is this puzzle kind of like switches up every couple of seconds, and all of the, symbols shuffle around, so you just need to be careful that you're doing it in the right timing. It doesn't seem to like rush you. You don't need to do this super quick. Just make sure you get it accurate, and after inputting all 6 of the corresponding astrology symbols in on your puzzle here, it should open to the other door right next to it, and then this is going to reveal a book, and then those pages that we picked up earlier at the beginning of this playthrough now come into play, and you can see these 4 eyeballs sitting on this book. Now, this part's kind of tricky, but I'm going to explain this the best I can. There's a handful of these eyeball traps around the map, and each and every single one have like a different corresponding glow, and what you need to do is run the trap that is best matched up with the eyeballs in the book, and you're going to do them left to right. So you're going to start with the top left one, obviously, and then do the bottom left, and then finish out the rest of them. Now, I'm going to show you where all of these trap locations are, and what you're really looking for are the details of the eyeball. Like the one that I'm starting with has, these highlighted eyelashes, and the one I'm looking at right now doesn't really have that. You can see these sort of like 4-section crosses that one is conveying. The next one is literally just outside in the courtyard. This one is also not the one I'm looking for. The other one that I'm looking for is actually right next to the Deadshot machine, but this is not the one that I start with. Just kind of remember where these locations are and the characteristics of them in your game, because they might be different. And then the one I'm actually looking for, you can see, is where the eyelashes are highlighted here, and that's the one that I need to start with. Now, the trick to these traps is you want to run these at the beginning of a round, because, as they're traps, they only last for a temporary amount of time, and you want to get a proper amount of zombie kills before the trap turns off, otherwise you'll fail it. It's not that many, it's only about like 7 or 10, so it's pretty quick if you're doing this at the beginning of a round, and you can verify you've done this right if you've done a trap and gotten your kills, collected souls, and then the eyeball is grayed out. That's how you'll know you're doing the step completely correct, and you're going to want to do that for all 4 of them. Now, the lucky thing is if you do the incorrect trap, it doesn't reset you or anything. You just have to do a different one, or maybe do it faster, whatever it is. It doesn't completely reset your progress, which is really nice, but you just want to pay attention to the characteristics of the eyeball, and once you've done that correctly, this door should open up, and it's going to reveal a set of 4 right here. These 4 symbols go clockwise, and you can see in my game it's fire, lion, raven, and then finally stag. And so this is kind of strange, but you remember the treasure chests that we got earlier from our items? Now they come into play. So whatever you're going to start with, in my game it's fire, I'm going to go over to the fire treasure chest and get the incantation out of it. You can smack it with the sword, melee it, and it should give you the corresponding incantation. Now, you want to use your L2 to use the incantation on this, and then you're going to want to inspect your weapon in front of the knight. To do this, you double tap your left arrow on your D-pad, and that should be your weapon inspect. You literally have to do this, like that's mandatory, but you do your incantation, weapon inspect, and if you've done it correctly, the knight should light up and glow yellow, and then you can put the sword back. You're going to want to do this for all 4 knights. Get the corresponding incantation, inspect your weapon in front of the knight, and then give him back his sword. If you're doing this right, it should look like this, and then once you've done all 4, this mystic orb is going to spawn in the middle, and then you can go ahead and pick it up, and then initiate our final step before the end. So once you've acquired the mystic orb, you can take that upstairs right in the room you're in and place it on one of these wall anchors, and this one in particular is going to correspond to the light sword. So assuming all 4 of them are upgraded at this point, they kind of have to be, you can pick this up and start killing zombies. Now, this is going to take a little while, and you essentially need to collect souls into this orb for a little bit, and eventually once it stops collecting souls, you can walk up to this orb and you can check if it's done, if it gives you a prompt to be able to pick it up. Basically, you just want to hang around here, kill as many zombies as you can. You can use the regular attack or the special attack, doesn't really matter, and you can see when it's satisfied when you're able to pick the mystic orb up once again. So once you've grabbed it, also go ahead and grab the lightning sword after that, and then we're going to take both the lightning sword and the mystic orb all the way down to spawn. There's going to be a second wall anchor literally over here on the left, just just right in the spawn room, and then the exact same situation here. You're going to kill until you can't anymore, and it's all done collecting souls. I feel like these take about 30 to 50 zombies maybe. It feels a little bit inconsistent depending on the element, and I still don't really know why. I feel like the lightning one takes a bit longer than the others, but regardless, you're going to finish this one up, and then once that one is done as well, we're going to take it back and then grab the orb and the fire sword, come right out here outside in the courtyard and place it on this third wall anchor over here, and we're going to be getting more zombie kills. The best way to do this is just charge up your sword by getting a few regular like R1 kills, and then use your sword's special ability, which in most cases blows up enough zombies just to like completely pass the step and skip it here. So once that one is done, this should be your third Mystic Elemental Orb challenge, and then finally we're going to place the last one in the wall anchor inside the Undercroft, and you guessed it, the only remaining sword is the Sword of Darkness. And so once we're down here, this one seems to take the longest for me, and I'm not really sure why. I can't explain it, but this one feels like it takes forever, so just I advise you be careful on this one, because I would also say it's like the most dangerous area. If you look at the Mystic Orb, you can also see your progress by these little tiny like elemental sparks flying around it, and once you've done all 4 successfully, this secret door over here where our original code was should be open. You could put the Mystic Orb right in the center. Now after a couple of seconds, this is going to reveal a completely secret room, and this is super cool. Inside of here is the Guardian Key. Now I've turned off the subtitles for this because what I recommend you do is in your game, interact with this Guardian Key once, and then this ghost like phantom should spawn, and he's going to talk to you and give you some very interesting dialogue. Like I said, I turn off the subtitles because I just want you guys to experience all of this in-game for yourself. But after you listen to him, like zombies won't be attacking you during the sequence if you're listening to him talk. So after he's all done, just make sure to grab the Guardian Key. That is the only thing you really need to do in this room. Just go ahead and pick that up, and at this point, make sure you're completely set up for the finale and for the ending. I recommend tier 3 pack-a-punched weapons, and I also recommend all of your perks. And at this point, I recommend you bring in the Tonto SMG if you haven't got it already, because it makes this boss fight a lot easier. But once you're ready, you put the Guardian Key in the thing right in front of him, and then he's going to come alive and then initiate the boss fight. This teleports you to a different arena, so let me explain to you how this works. Now, this arena is very unique, and the boss himself is pretty damn tough. So right when the fight begins, you're going to notice that he's taking next to no damage just about anywhere. Even with a fully upgraded gun, you're not going to be doing a whole lot. That's because he's completely armored up, and he's got armor that negates almost all damage. Now, you can break this armor. You need to shoot him until eventually he gets staggered, and you can see like these weak points open up. Now, they're going to become very obvious when you see these sort of red marks on him that become almost yellow, and you'll get extra critical damage for these spots. I recommend like you need to be hitting criticals in this boss fight. It's pretty much like a non-negotiable. If you're not hitting critical spots, you're doing almost nothing. So that is your utmost priority, and you just need to be shooting at him and dealing damage and avoiding attacks until you can hit those critical spots. A couple of things is he only has a handful of moves, but they do come out pretty fast, and there's a couple of ways you can approach this boss fight. You can either keep your sword out and try to like reflect and parry some of his moves. Yes, you can parry his projectiles, or you can pretty much just try to react to his, options with your movement, and then just try to dump out as much damage as you possibly can with your gun. Now, in between phases, he's going to go immune and invulnerable like this. During that time, these extra zombies are going to spawn in, and I recommend just having your sword out because it costs you no ammo, and there's also ammo boxes around the map to use. Now, the thing is, I said this area is unique because every time he goes back to the middle, this magma is going to pour into the arena, and the actual like arena itself is going to shrink. You're going to get less playable space. So I recommend getting comfortable with hanging out close to him and around the center anyways, because near the end of the fight, that's all you're going to have. But he has a couple of moves in phase 2 and 3 where he sprays this magma. You just need to watch the ground as well, because the magma will prevent you from healing and deal additional damage, which is maybe one of the most dangerous moves and aspects to this fight. So if you're avoiding these successfully, one of the best tips I have for you is if you can see this projectile move is going to come out, if you're not parrying it, it sounds counterintuitive, but charge towards him. You can probably avoid most of the damage that you're going to take. So other than the arena shrinking in size and he becoming invulnerable every so often, just hitting critical points and dealing damage from range is probably the best way to go about this fight, because it's pretty straightforward, once you have all of that in mind. You just deal damage to him consistently until you finally take him down. In phase 3, he becomes the most dangerous, but he's also the most vulnerable. He has this big vulnerable spot in the middle of his chest that if you're being like really good, you can absolutely melt it. And then eventually, once you take him down, you will have beaten the boss fight, and congratulations if you've made it to this point. You have one more thing you need to do after you beat the boss, however. He's going to drop an item that is the amulet that Kraft was telling you about from the beginning of the thing, so you need to go make sure you grab this immediately, and then once you've picked up this amulet, you have beaten it, and the cutscene will play. I won't play it just to, so no spoilers, but you guys can experience it in-game. I just want to say thank you for watching. I hope this guide did help. Leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.